Hello, friends. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening from. Welcome to the Fresh Fathers and Sons Air podcast from the Dad Base. We are a movement on a mission to be the bridge between fathers and sons, discovering God-given identity and living courageously as men. Thank you so much for tuning in and allowing us to share things every man needs to talk about today. My name is Ivan Peter Otim, and I'm your host together with my brother Barnabas Birungi. Barnabas, why don't you send some shout-outs to people listening to us across the world?
Yeah, shout-outs to everyone listening in across the world. We know we have people from the US, we have people from Uganda, East Africa, and all over the world. We are excited to bring to you the Fresh Fathers and Sons Air podcast. Very excited today.
Yes. So at the Dad Base, we are passionate about rescuing every boy and man from a sonship crisis or fatherlessness or dad deprivation. And friends, this very day, we are on our first episode of a second season, and we are hosting a great man, an amazing father, an amazing husband, a mentor, a remarkable leader, our former Sunday school teacher, and our high school teacher, formerly. And you see, some of us know him as Uncle Paul from our childhood. But today, allow us to introduce you to Mr. Paul Lwere. You're so much welcome, Uncle Paul. We're very excited and super grateful to share this moment with you.
Thank you, Ivan. It's a joy to me to see you here and to recap my past days, my journey.
Yeah.
Greetings to you all, wherever you are in the US, in Uganda, South Africa, wherever you are human like us, and
right.
a dad, a son. We are glad to talk to you today.
Yeah, this feels like a dream because we have so many memories together. And I have a fresh memory right now that just crossed my mind. I remember when I was very little, I remember Uncle Paul had a bike. Is that
Yes.
true? Yes, if I remember
bike.
well. Yes.
A very high motorbike.
And St. Kakumba at that time, probably 2000, 2001, we had a church that was very, a very squeezed kind of room, yeah? And Uncle Paul had a corner with his keyboard, and we knew every Sunday there would be someone at the corner playing good songs. And there were also some interesting projectors that projected kind of like from a reflection of light.
Yes.
And it was really very amazing days back then. I want to ask you, Barnabas, what do you remember about Uncle Paul growing up?
I just remember him coming to Sunday school, inspiring the young kids, and then also playing keyboard as well in the big church. So you remember sometimes we'd be in the big church, and then after we get out, and then you'd see this man playing with passion. And it was very interesting because most of the times the instrumentalists would be, remember they had taught a bunch of young guys to play. But in the young guys, you'd see this, fairly old man or elderly or a father playing the keys and enjoying himself. I think for me, that even lit something in me about music. Just seeing you play. And I remember my dad telling us, because my dad was the chaplain then, so we used to love soccer so much. So he told us, everyone has to learn an instrument.
Wow.
Go look for Uncle Paul. Make sure you learn an instrument. But we are more interested in football. Funny enough, years later, that's when I realized I was like, wow, I should have learned an instrument, because I struggled to try and learn a keyboard when I was already at campus. And I remember the words my dad was telling me in S1.
To look for Uncle Paul.
To look for Uncle Paul and learn an instrument.
Here he is. After here, you should hook
but
up.
now I'm too old to learn a keyboard.
Never too old. You can catch up.
But at that time, I actually learned to take parents' words really, really seriously, because he was seeing far. Later I got involved in music, and now I wanted to learn an instrument, and it was a bit too late. And what? I was like, I wish I'd listened to my dad. That time I was just interested in soccer.
Yeah.
I wanted to become a professional footballer.
Wow.
But God led me on the path of music, and I realized I wish I'd listened to my dad in my S1.
Wow.
I just thought he was saying, normal things a father would say, go learn, go do this. And yet I didn't know that my dad was actually looking 10 years
way ahead.
Way ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I said, I wish I had listened to my dad. I was already late.
That's interesting. So, guys,
but I can
yeah.
learn maybe.
Oh yes,
you still
absolutely.
can.
Never too late.
Yeah, I believe so.
Never.
I believe so too.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, well, right now you're doing music
Yeah.
and you feel the need to to still pick up a skill.
Yeah, improve
Yeah.
every day.
But also for the guys listening in, please take the word of your father seriously, especially if it's not harming you and it's
They see
for your
far.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
they have an eye that is wider than yours. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another memory just of Uncle Paul. I remember in primary school, I also went to
Chambogo
Primary, Chambogo
Yes.
College. So when I was joining Chambogo College School, and I didn't know really which teachers were there, and then I see Uncle Paul on a Monday at assembly,
Wow.
So I was telling friends, that's Uncle Paul. And then they're like, yes, that's Mr. Lwere, he's tough, he's tough. So I remember now, I was kind of a bit puzzled. I didn't know how to relate. Should I call him Uncle Paul,
Uncle Paul
or
or
Mr.
Mr.
Lwere?
Lwere?
So at that time, as a teenager, lots of things happening. So I decided to kind of like distance myself.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
remember in senior 4, there was a scenario. Uncle Paul was teaching us English, and he came for his class, and he found the class, noisy. So he asked, who is making noise? Class monitor, give me the list, and there was no list. That day, we received a good spanking. Everyone got their own share of a spanking.
You
Yeah.
received
But
discipline.
what I really cherished in high school about Uncle Paul was he was a teacher of English, music, and literature, but then also he was a teacher of life. I always looked forward to the Mondays and Friday mornings assembly because I knew there would be a word of encouragement, there would be a motivation, there would be a reminder where we're in school, and that was everything. And I believe even today we are who we are because of his effort back then. I also know that there's so many friends out there probably who listening in and they relate to what I'm saying and they appreciate your contribution to their lives back then.
Thank you, Peter.
But I want to give you a moment as well, Uncle Paul, to just tell us more maybe about yourself, your family, your work, and we carry on.
Oh, thank you so much, Peter. I am a married man, married to Harriet Lwere, and God has blessed us with 3 beautiful girls.
Wow.
Ivy, who's 14 going to 15. Shalom, who's 12 going to 13. And Irene, who's 11. And like you have all shared, you've given me a bit of my memory back then. I'm a teacher by profession. I've now taught, it's coming close to 30 years.
Wow.
Enjoying the teaching profession. My growing up, I come from a big family. By Ugandan standards, you could say maybe it's just the ordinary family. 9 children. We were born 9 children, 7 boys and 2 girls.
Yeah.
My father was a teacher.
7 boys.
7 boys.
How were the meal plans like?
Oh, that's a good question.
Wow.
We were really guzzlers. If I could use that word. Our mother had to cope up with our feeding because we were healthy boys, and so definitely we really ate much, and we overshadowed the girls. We have an interesting pattern of the family.
Okay.
My big sister was the 4th born. Okay. And my little sister, our last born. So 4th and 9th. You can see how they were spaced. They were just one was squashed in between and the other one at the end. And growing up, my father was a teacher who had gone up levels, and he started as a primary teacher. He studied and became a secondary school teacher, and then upgraded to college, and then finally university before he passed on. And he had to raise us the way we were in the tough times. I was born in the early Idi Amin days. I was born in 1970. And at that time, my father was transitioning into college teaching. And so he came to Chambogo. By then, when it was the NTC coming up. And so I was born there in Chambogo. So I'm a Chambogo boy.
Born and bred.
Born and bred in Chambogo. For those of you who are familiar with this, Chambogo is in the city close to Kampala, the capital city of Uganda, on the eastern side of the city. So we are not far away from the city. We found ourselves getting into the city. When I was born, my father was in the process of going out for upgrading. He was traveling to Ghana, where he did his further studies to acquaint himself with university. And so I didn't see my father for my first 4 years.
Wow.
So he left, and all I was told, my father is in the plane. So whenever a plane passed over, I would say, "Hi, Daddy."
Wow.
So the plane was. So I missed those 4 years of Daddy. It was only mommy and brothers, big brothers and a sister.
Yes.
My young sister was not born then. So when our dad returned in 1974, he was all strange to me. I was seeing, and he had this big beard. I think in Ghana, where he was studying from, they cherished having big beards.
I think even till today, there's so many Ghanaians
Yes.
with lots of beards. Yeah.
So I saw this bearded man. He looked so fierce. He looked huge. And he hadn't seen me before, so he was seeing this little boy running around, asking
I'm curious to find out whether you called him uncle or daddy.
I guess I must have referred to him as uncle.
Wow.
But I had been tutored by my mom and said, "No, you're going to see your father, and going to Entebbe, seeing these big planes, and for the first time." And I said, "Your dad is going to come out of there," and so seeing him, it was a wow picture, seeing your father, someone you look to. And so he came and settled down with us. But having a beard and not being a Christian, my father was not a believer, if I could put it that way. And he was so much into his profession, and he was a musician, he was a music teacher. African music. So he would play all these African musical instruments. He specialized in the tube fiddle, and then would play the xylophones, he would play the lyre so professionally, and he would teach it. So I looked to him and I admired him and said, "Wow, I wish I could be like him."
Wow.
But one thing was that having been away, I was distanced from him. We didn't have a conversation. My big brothers knew who to talk to. Probably if they ever come onto this podcast, they would probably share something.
Yeah, would love to have them, especially
Pastor Peter Mugabe.
Yes, Pastor Peter Mugabe is a great storyteller, and I'm sure he has a great experience
and
as well.
gives his version to this.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I had started school. So I actually also went to Chambogo Primary. I went through Chambogo Nursery and then Chambogo Primary, all in Chambogo. And having grown up there, very small school, we were most of the time with our mother. When our dad returned, he still had to do a lot of travels. And so most of my time was with my mom. Then came 1979, the Amin War, when they were hosting out Amin. And about that time, our father found a new relationship. And there was a lady who used to work in the university, in the college there in NTC, who he moved out with. And so he left the official house with us, the official college house. So we were staying in that house, and he was a non-resident father. He would come visit and then go back. Maybe he would stay a night or two, and then would. So he went to Banda, which is just the next place to Chambogo. Those who are familiar with the geography there. And so we grew up in that kind of atmosphere. Actually, just before the war, is when he moved in with this lady. And so as the war intensified, in fact, we thank God for those moments because the war brought him back to us.
Wow.
So he would come and stay with us. They would tell us the war is drawing closer. And so this lady, our dad's lady, tried to use this opportunity to oust us out of the house. So he was saying, now that the war is drawing closer, you need to move to other secure places. This place is not secure, safe for you.
Wow.
Move out. But I want to thank God for my mom. I testify for my mom. She was such a strong woman. She resisted and insisted to stay. She said she has to look after her children.
So at the time, you had all the 6 siblings born. They were all there.
So at that time, we were 8 of us. Our last born, our last girl was not yet born.
Okay.
So at that, and so this, the 8 of us, we were 7 boys and 1 girl at that time. And so it was that kind of solid house. And I remember one incident when our dad wanted to evict our mom forcefully.
Okay.
He came, he used to drink. So I think
From
he
Banda.
had topped up a little. So he came and he wanted to beat up our mom. And my big brothers prepared for war. So, as a young boy, I was looking at all this and wondering what's exactly going to happen.
What's happening?
So I saw them getting some sticks and they put in the bedroom. I said, well,
ready to defend
our mom.
Wow.
And I remember our mom's bedroom was just next to our bedroom, the boys' bedroom.
Yeah.
And so in the middle of the night, I think something happened. We were kept out of all this. At least I was kept out of this. My mom made a noise, and my big brothers all got up with their sticks, and they went to our parents' door.
Wow.
That was the first time I saw how aggressive my brothers could be.
Wow.
So
all of them?
All of them. The first 4, I think my brother, Pastor Peter, and now I think the 2 of us were kept out of this.
Yeah, I was actually thinking
The
about Pastor
younger
Peter and imagining at that time the pastor
Was not yet inside.
not joking about
Yes.
mommy shouldn't be beaten or something.
Yes,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, these 2 of those big brothers, our firstborn and secondborn, passed on in 1992, 93. But our thirdborn is still alive. Well, if he ever listens to this, he will recall all this. So they prepared to attack, and our dad pulled it off. So in the morning,
He seized fire.
Yeah, he seized fire. In the morning, he, as usual, prepared himself and went off. So when we asked our mom what exactly had happened, and you can't believe our dad was trying to strangle our mom.
Wow.
And when he heard the noise of my big brothers coming up to defend her, he put it off. And that's how our mom was saved. And so
I'm imagining what was going through your mind as a young boy.
I was.
Were you how old were you then?
But I was 10.
10.
I was 9.
9.
Yes.
Imagine
That
what
was
was
really
going
young.
through your mind
Yeah.
at that time.
At that time, I was thinking, dads are hostile people. Actually, I resented anything called dad because we feared. Back also, he would, whenever he would come, he would always find some faults about my brothers, either something lost or something broken. He was a very...
He wouldn't come in peace.
Yes. He was a bad disciplinarian. He was a very good walloper. He had a room which we called an office, a special office, a side room, where he would keep canes. You know, we have those special canes which are bent a little bit. The Nga canes, the Lugas. He had them. We don't know how many there were, but there are quite several there. If they took you to that office, you knew it was a caning time.
And you had a tough job. I mean, tough job with all these boys.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm sure there must have been drama also from the
lot
boys
of
developing.
drama, but
yeah.
he contained us.
Yeah.
He was in control.
Yeah.
And so, so that kind of toughness kept on.
Yeah.
And this time round, it went overboard. He was the kind of person who would come and give us tasks. I remember there was a time we had cockroaches coming up in the house.
Yeah.
This is an interesting thing to talk about. And so he was also a clean-oriented person. And so he said, now, I'm beginning to see cockroaches around the house. From now on, he said, whenever he would come, he would want us to show him 10 dead cockroaches. So he kept hyping the number from 10 to 20, like that. Wow. So it came to a point where there was no cockroach in the house.
Wow.
And we would go hunting for cockroaches in the compound.
Wow.
Where we would go to beans. And
was there a reward for catching them?
There wasn't exactly a reward, but there was
a repercussion.
A repercussion, a consequence for having
Wow.
not got the actual number. If you got just less than a number, you would get a cane for the cockroach you missed.
Wow. Uncle Paula, I just want to ask you something else, just related to just the background. There's something really I personally observed, that it's one thing for a boy to grow into a body of a man, and completely another for him to be raised, in the identity of a man. And just listening to you clearly, I mean, you pick out, moments where your dad was absent, and also, that first instance where you see your mom, almost being abused, strangled, and growing up now, at that time from 10 and 18 is usually that stage where now a boy is expected to be a man. You can vote, you expected to pay taxes and all that. You can drive, you can even maybe start a family, and I mean, society is struggling with several boys in men's bodies, and boys who are only growing in the bodies of men but not being raised in the identity of men. And I just wanted to share with us a reflection back. If you could turn back that time and talk about your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him? But then also, how was that identity formation for you?
I kind of struggled with my identity because when I finished my P7, I went to a boarding school, and so again I was away from my father, and so by the time I turned 18, I didn't have connection with him. And so I really suffered identity crisis. Okay. I really didn't know what I wanted. There were many things that I cherished. I looked at lawyers. I looked at soldiers. All I was seeing is that I could be anything. And at one time I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I thought I could be maybe a journalist, because I was seeing journalists coming up and they're smart, and they would talk. You'd see them on the tele, and I admired them. So I lost a little bit of my focus, but for one thing, I knew I was a language-oriented person. Okay. So I thought I could be a musician. Incidentally, that because I had a big brother who was into music as well, so I thought I could be.
Was that Pastor Peter?
No, besides Pastor Peter, because Pastor Peter we were close. I'm just next to him, and all with him was just fights. But incidentally,
it's interesting.
Yeah,
because right now you are very close. Very close. I think some people actually think you're twins.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
Because and he kind of influenced me because I kept following him wherever he went, in ministries. When he went to the Baptist church, I followed him. I liked singing along with him. He became my mentor of a sort.
Big brother role.
A big brother, yes. And so I followed him that way. And if I were to talk to myself at that age, probably I needed to tell myself to be focused, to grow up, to learn to be independent, because the earlier you get independent, the better, because then you begin working onto a future. Yeah. And that in itself lacked in me. And it caused a lag in me, because even as I went to HSC, my choice of subjects, my choice of profession was not definite, because it lacked a touch, a father touch, a dad touch at that point.
So the independence you talk about is more of self-awareness.
Yes,
and
I didn't have that self-awareness that much. It was a big struggle to me.
But you mentioned liking to be a musician and then liking to teach.
Yes.
And these are elements you also mentioned about your dad.
Yes.
Do you think in some way it influenced you?
I think it did, because it came just as a way of watching him. Yeah, I saw him go places. I love going places, traveling. So I thought, if I can be like my dad, who travels a lot, I would travel. So probably in that way, I picked up something of that sort. And I had also picked up on musical instruments. At that time, I could play the guitar, I could play the keyboard, and so
where did you learn from? Did you learn
school?
School?
It was partly school and partly home. My big brother, who used to play the keyboard, and he actually also played in St. Kakumba Chapel in Chambogo in earlier days. So I admired him, how he used to do it, and my brother Peter was playing the guitar, and he was so popular then, and then I was saying, wow, I want to play the guitar, I want to play the keyboard.
That's an effect of big brothers. You have no idea how much Barnabas has influenced his other younger brothers as a big brother.
My little brother.
But it's interesting to watch, yes.
So that those are the kind of drives I got at that time.
Wow.
Little did I know that I would even end up in teaching.
Was your dad playing these modern instruments, or it was just the African ones?
He was just in African instruments. But
still there was a drop of music in that passed on to him.
That was passed on. We all didn't go traditional because of the fear we had for him. We just couldn't even touch his instruments. He was so attached to his instruments to the extent that if you just touch it and even moved it a little, he would know. So someone touched my fiddle.
Wow.
And it was facing the north.
Yes.
Now it's
actually, it was facing northeast west.
Northeast, and now it is now facing north.
Like very particular.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but of course that created a lot of fear in you.
Yes.
Could you just share something about that in terms of like your dad's hostility? And growing up as a teenager, what did it create? Some sort of like fear in you of a sort?
Yes. Dad became a point of fear whenever he would come. Actually, whenever he had a way of moving about with a bunch of keys. And so
you could tell from
we could hear that bunch of keys shaking, and we say, Dad is coming. So we always had someone at the door.
What happened to that trend? It used to be something. The keys, people used to have store key.
Store keys.
Every key. Yeah. In a batch.
Nowadays people have apps.
So
yes. Anyway, I no longer see that culture.
So with that, we didn't consult him on how we would work out our future. We just simply observed, and we would approach him through uncles, through his office mates, his fellow lecturers, and so it distanced us from our.
So you can't recall any one-on-one conversation with your dad?
I don't recall a one-on-one with him. It was the only times we would talk was giving a report card. He would say, now, why were you this position? Why did you perform this way? And said, the repercussions of performing this way? And so those are the conversations we had.
So it was strictly disciplinary and
yes.
Okay.
There was no love.
But the other thing, really, if you look at it on the other side, and for even our listeners to just pay attention to, is that even as we're having this conversation about fathers, which is very rare, men rarely open up. I don't know the last time you told someone about your father this way, but it's not a common conversation.
It's not a common conversation. Yeah, you're right.
And we try to emphasize, even as that best, that bringing conversation about the fathers is not to condemn them or to make them, feel like they are the evil people, because our fathers actually fathered us the way they know,
Yes.
And the only thing is that it's most likely that we will also do the same thing as we watched,
Yes.
So it kind of becomes a kind of cycle that's passed on, a pattern that's just passed on, And here the dad base are trying to change the narrative that how do we actually open our eyes to how God fathers us, and how do we learn from our fathers and appreciate even their effort, celebrate them. One of our goals is to celebrate, reconcile, and restore our relationships with our fathers, So irrespective of what happened, we still want our fathers out there listening. You could be a father out there and maybe the description of Uncle Paul's father fits you, We want you to just stay calm and just keep listening in. And listening to Uncle Paul, he was describing his father in different other ways. And I know that definitely some other things, probably his provision and even just that relationship, someone knowing that whose son is this, something like that, and even a house, so there's some things that are actually good as well. And I know if we ask you to mention them, like also very many.
There are many good things.
Yes, but I want us to change direction a little bit.
To flip,
to not just flip the coin. Yeah,
yes, just flip it.
How would your children now describe you and as a father, as their father, as their dad? And how do they actually do it right now? Yes.
Imagine we had your daughter on the podcast.
Yes,
Ivy.
Tell us about your dad.
Barnabas is friends with Ivy.
Yeah. I know they'll probably listen to this. Yeah. Now, having gone through a disciplinarian father, I think that one now threw me to the opposite.
Wow.
Because I told myself I would love my children and I would love to listen to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I do listen to them whenever I try, being that they are girls and they need a father. Actually, like it's always said, girls are more attached to their fathers.
Closer.
So my girls are attached to me. And so I've found it very difficult to punish them. And that is, it's in a way I've discovered along the way.
A genuine struggle.
Yes, a genuine struggle. As a teacher, I know I need to discipline them when they do something wrong. I need to punish them, and then also show love to them.
Yeah.
And that has been a very big challenge.
Yeah.
And up to tomorrow, and they are growing. Like I told you, their ages, and they are those points when they really need a firm hand. I've shown them that I could cane them. And
have you caned them before?
Apparently, I haven't.
Wow.
Come to think of it.
Ivy must be the luckiest girl out there. And the sisters.
Yes, Ivy and her
For us,
sisters.
caning was daily bread. Growing up.
But I've kept promising them, and I think I've only slapped the little girl when she was naughty. I went out of the way.
But they get some other form of punishment.
Yes. I deny them certain things. I say now, for this, you will not have your iPads or you won't have this.
There's a very interesting saying that a girl, even though she grows up to what extent, she'll always be a father's baby girl.
Absolutely.
Whereas the mother sees her as a woman,
Yeah.
And it's also the other way around. For a boy, when a father is raising a boy, he wants him to be a man.
Yes.
But a mom will always look at him as my
boy.
boy. Even when he's married, some marriages actually have issues because mothers have a strong attachment to that.
Absolutely. My mother looks at me as her boy.
And and you feel you're a man, and your father would actually come in and say, "This is the man now. We need to let go."
Absolutely.
Yeah. But the other really interesting fact is for a girl growing up, the father is the first man that they see,
Yes.
So even just when they have issues like relationships, breakups, if a father is absent, the father will be actually have very fast heartbreak.
Absolutely.
So if she had, like, say, a present father who shows her love and expresses it daily, just the way you're doing,
Yes.
it's very hard, for these girls to actually get into such issues, because they have a standard of love that they pick from their father.
They look
and they have somewhere where they feel safe.
Yes,
that's very important.
Yes, that's what goes through my mind as I interact with them. I know if I don't love them, they are going to seek for love elsewhere, and probably in a wrong place.
So in summary, they would describe you as loving and
non-caning.
Non-caning.
Loving.
Yes, that is true.
Non-caning.
Non-caning.
That's an interesting one.
Oh dear.
So as we also move forth, because we are really, really excited to hear about your relationship with your daughters, and how God balanced about, interestingly, how you grew up among boys, and God is like, let me give him girls. To see. So there's a question that is on our mind. We're wondering, we're trying to imagine that if you could have a billboard, so these big billboards like that in Kampala, if you could have a billboard along Kampala Road or Nigeria Road, whatever,
or highway,
with your daughters on it, Ivy, all the three. I'm not real conversant with the rest.
Ivy, Shalom, and Irene.
Ivy, Shalom, and
Irene.
Irene.
Oh, we call her Sanyu, actually. She's used to Sanyu.
Sanyu.
Yeah.
Imagining, what message would you add there and why? So if you had this big picture billboard where everyone can see your three daughters, like what would be the tagline there? What would you communicate to the world or to them? Do you have like some sort of something that you would message?
I would look at them as the beloveds.
Beloveds.
Yes.
Sounds like a movie title.
Movie title, an album name. Wow.
Yeah.
Why I would think of this, because I want them to come into this world as people who would have a contribution. I was imagining, the world tends to swallow us.
Yeah.
We get swallowed. And when I think of them as being swallowed, I would rather them resisting the swallow, but being swallowed. I was looking at the two words, swallowed or swallowed. And so maybe I could have the beloveds, not swallowed, but swallowed.
I'm feeling like I'm in an English class right now. Swallowed is a new word to me, and I'm not going to forget it. I need to go back home and use it as well. But that's so sweet. That's really sweet. And you see, the whole world will get to know that, wow, these are the beloved and not swallowed and swallowed.
Swallowed.
And we have to know where they come from, and the father is so proud,
Yes.
And I think it's also very important for children to know that they are loved by their parents, they are beloved.
Yes.
I think growing up in our African culture is not a popular thing. Like, you can't recall the times where your dad sat you down and says, I love you. It's actually like unheard of. It's like an abomination.
I don't actually remember hearing it.
Even me, I first heard it when at a later stage. Probably as an S5 or something. I'll host my dad very soon.
And yet your dad is a pastor.
But I knew he loved me. But speaking it's a rare thing.
It doesn't come easily.
But for children, I think that word is more important than even money. It's more important than an iPad. It's more important than even the school fees. Like, you don't know how much that word has an impact. Just them knowing that they are actually loved. They feel safe. They feel they are known. They feel enough. And so it builds their esteem. It builds their confidence. Everywhere they step, they know, man. And you can tell when there's a girl moving around and she knows, man, my dad loves me, right? You can tell with a girl who doesn't know that. Who has never had that before. So I think it's always good for us to get out of our shells, African culture shells,
Yes.
and communicate these
Yeah.
things. Now, there's always a thing that the African parents they want to communicate in a different way, because, like Otim said, they communicate
The
how
way
they
they-
received.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how you received your love is how you will definitely communicate it down.
Certainly.
But we've been learning lately the power of words. Like, it's very, very key. And you will, I remember the first time my dad told me I love you, it was, he sent me a text message, because I think he wouldn't
The
say
courage of
it. It was
saying
a bit so he sent me a text message. I would look at that text for hours. Just one text.
I can imagine.
I would look at it for hours.
Wow.
Like, I would read it. I would read it all the time. I read it again. I will read it again. Now, my dad has given me so many things. Like, he has given me so many gifts.
Yeah.
But I don't see any gift that was more, that was bigger than
Than
you
the
know,
one
that term.
that
Yeah.
text.
Yeah, because for me, that's what like built my confidence, built my esteem, gave me some sort of like, you know, when you're moving and you know there's an army behind you, that kind of feeling, that knowing that you're actually loved, it's very, very key.
Yeah.
For daughters and even the boys,
Yeah.
especially. Yeah.
And there's something interesting. I learned also recently that the only love we keep is the one we share.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The
That's
only,
interesting.
yeah. So when you share it, you know,
you are
you
able
also
to
get to feel it in a
Yeah.
way. Yeah. So
Wow.
it's just a feeling of fulfillment, you know,
Yes.
seeing that people get to experience what you're feeling as well, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
So, and when, for the fathers listening in out there, when clearly, if you've not received this from your own father or from, say, a father figure or a big brother or a mentor, this can be an opportunity to learn this as well and resolve and say, hey, it's not late for me to actually start doing this. Today, you can decide and say, I'm going to go back home and express my love to my children.
Well, I'm going to send out text.
I'm going to send out, yes, if you don't have
You
that
can start
courage
with
yet,
text
you can start
and
with a
then-
message.
Yeah.
Oh,
A
yes.
WhatsApp message, or Facebook, or just an SMS and say, I love you, son. I love you, my daughter, you know, and I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Those was just like,
There's a lady in our fellowship who because we had a conversation on this, so she went and told the father, Daddy, I love you. And the dad was like, hey, what's going on? What's happening? It was just strange, like very
can
strange.
imagine.
So-
yeah, she
Saying,
just
is this girl getting spoiled somewhere?
yeah. Could that be something wrong? You know? Yeah, but it's interesting. Now, coming back, Uncle Paul,
Yes.
again, just talking about your daughters. Earlier on, you mentioned how you feel you express lots of love.
Yes.
And you haven't even really disciplined or applied. I know there's several ways you discipline apart from caning, you know,
Yes.
as teachers do cane. I myself, I enjoy the canes because I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for the discipline through the stick. Yeah. But there are also probably other challenges of raising daughters. And would love you to share with us what challenges have you faced raising daughters as a father, and probably how have you dealt with them?
The challenges, knowing that they are going to be with people.
Okay.
At the back of my mind, I have wanted my children to be relational. And so the way I've raised them is that they should respect everybody. I said, I keep telling them, everyone deserves respect.
Wow.
It doesn't matter who they are, respect them. In fact, those who have interacted with them have noticed they respect everyone and they greet them because that's how I was raised. Our mom raised us that way, and I thought that in itself has connected us to people. And then I desire them to be people who are self-aware, and they are innovative. So I want them to come up, to grow up as people who are independent. Those that can face the world, go through it, make their way, stand their ground. But of course, that has not yet come. They still have their fears. Of course, they come across individuals who tell them otherwise. Say, no, you know. And then the other thing also I want them to be is to be ladies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at times we want to raise children, and they lose their gender by trying to be so hard, and
Right.
in the course of that they they lose
Yeah.
their ladiness
Yeah.
or ladylike nature. So those are the kind of things I'm
Yeah.
grappling with.
Cherishing the femininity.
Yes.
Of course, raising them into ladies, that must be a tough one.
It is
Because you're a man.
I am a man.
You can maybe probably only influence them or shape them. But it might be
Yes.
hard. That might be the mom's place to
Yes.
Yeah.
put them in. But
So I
it must
usually
be
I push my wife to make
Yeah, and it's very important
Yeah.
because it takes a team to raise children.
Yeah, it
Absolutely.
does.
Because there's a great part mothers play in a boy's life as well.
Yes.
Especially expressing, the obvious need to respect women and also to know how to relate with them.
Absolutely, yes.
And it's the same thing with the father and the daughter when it comes to the boys and men. Yes, Barnabas.
Yeah. So do you have any specific things you do to like teach them? Of course, mentioning your challenges, trying to raise ladies. As a guy, of course, even before you were raised amongst many guys,
Yes.
and now you're raising ladies, must be tough per se. I'm imagining, are there like some specific things you do with them to teach them? Is it like you sit down with them and tell them do this, or do you use life circumstances to teach them? Are there some specifics that you use?
I kind of do both. I've nurtured a Christian, would call a Christian home.
Yeah.
So we have a prayer time, which we commonly call the altar time. And
so your first foundational thing is a Christian culture.
Christian home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we want our fathers out there to take notes.
Yeah.
Who are
Yes.
raising that. So
A
first thing is
Christian home
Christian culture.
where you have a time of prayer,
Yeah.
where you eat together also, and then go to church together, try to go places together, because then they will know Dad goes where we go.
Yeah.
And engage them into church activities. There are those activities where they are youth
camps.
camps, outings, meetings, those kind. I don't miss them. In fact, whenever they're announced in church, I listen out to them.
Your eyes are always on the projector.
Yes, on the projector. And I say, my girls should be part of this. And I make it. And in a way, it has helped me. Because for the things that I don't know, they find. In those camps, there's a program that used to be somewhere in Tinda. They used to call it Eminent Girls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was one of the first parents who participated in this, because when I looked at it on a brochure and I saw how they were going to nurture them into ladies that are admirable, I thought this is the kind of thing I should go for. And so it's home, and they're also participating in their activities.
In different activities.
I'm just in their lives somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we of course now we are getting a bit more curious about your relationship with your girls, with your ladies.
Yes.
We are trying to imagine how you actually prepare them to relate with boys or with other men. Are there some specifics that you, because at the end of the day they are,
they're certainly going to relate.
They are certainly going to relate at some point.
I would love
they
to
are
hear
going to
it.
get married, know, or in school they are boys, and then they have also uncles, they have men around, because we know as long if you are in a home, what happens in the home, what happens with your father, and has an impact on actually how you relate with men,
yes.
and also how you relate with God at the end of the day. But wanted to know how you, as a father, is there a way that you have actually prepared them to relate with boys and other men? I don't know.
Or even the conversation. Have you had that conversation, say, with Ivy about boys? Already?
About boys.
Yeah.
Not exactly, because I'm trying to recall. The conversations we've had have been mainly caution. You know, the usual caution parents have: watch out as you relate with the boys. Don't allow them to touch your private parts or anything like that. Be cautious. That we've said. But then on the other side, I do encourage the girls to feel free with the opposite sex, because definitely they will relate with them.
Yeah.
And my eldest daughter has just recently got into a mixed school. Her primary was in a girls' school.
Okay.
Yeah. Must be
And
a new
in a way
experience for
that
her.
also let her down a little bit. So she's not got to that point where she relates with the opposite
she's not
sex
free.
that well.
Easily.
But even then, the little conversation we've had has still remained the same. I keep saying, yes, you must relate with people. You don't just run away from them.
Yeah.
Find out who they are. Always get to know what sort of things they are interested in, so that you can be able to either participate in them or avoid. If it is dangerous, avoid. So we've spoken straight with them, and we've had those sessions with my wife where we say, okay, now we are going to have a hard talk. We usually call it a hard talk.
Yeah.
Are there things you just don't want to talk about with us? Of course, they have not told us everything.
I know. Yeah.
They keep saying, no, there's some things we'll never tell you. I say, okay, let's wait and see. And so, but we've opened a space.
Yeah.
We've made sure that space is available. Say, if there's anything you want to talk about, even that which you think we won't listen to, please talk about it and get to know what we think about this.
I like that. Because having that space and that platform where they can feel safe to talk about anything, it's very important.
Yes.
But
And
it's not something you just wake up and start. It's something you actually build.
You have to build
from relationship.
Yeah.
And the way we build it, we ensure that they are protected.
Yeah.
When they say something that probably would be laughable over, we try to contain ourselves not to laugh or not to come out strongly. And that's kind of things.
I like that.
So, Uncle Paul, we just want to again to just think about something really close to that, and we want to really appreciate you for being that present, because I think there are quite a number of fathers who leave that role for the mothers. You know, that if you're talking about personal issues and what, go to your mother, or you know. My wife, please deal with this. Me, I don't want to entertain that, you know. But it takes really a caring father to come down and say, to be humble enough to say, you know what, my daughters need an ear. And even though they're not confident yet to open up, they will. I love what you say when they say the things that we don't want to tell you yet, you know. Just a response of, okay, let's see. There will be a time where they will actually come, you know. They'll come and say,
if they know you're open, they will come.
And it will be before they even make a mistake.
I hope so.
Yeah, because you're already cautioning them, you know, and they know where you stand. They know the word. It's just like how God cautions us, you know. He gives us the word, and our part is to listen and obey, you know. And it's really an issue with so many fathers as well here. And I want us to talk about absent fathers, but I want to sort of just for our listeners to just think about these statistics. We've talked about these statistics a lot of times at the Dad Base, in our fellowships and in other messages. And Family Life Network Uganda is led by a great gentleman.
Stephen Langa.
Is it doctor, engineer now?
Is engineer.
Yes, Stephen Langa. They did a research in 2018, and they found only 5% of fathers in Uganda were active in the lives of their children. Active relates to presence, physically, emotionally, socially, financially, and spiritually. And 10% of fathers in Uganda were not aware of the existence of the children that fathered themselves. And then 30% of households in Uganda were headed by women, you know. And that, my mom, I believe, belonged to that statistic at that time. And there's another interesting fact that the absence of a biological father contributes to increased risk of child maltreatment.
Yeah.
It affects how they grow, how they develop as a child. But then also children raised in a father-absent home are more likely to experience behavior problems growing up.
That's true.
Issues
That's
to do with mental health, to do with identity crisis, the gender issues we're hearing all over the world today. And I mean, we know of a situation just, I think, this last month of a shooting in the USA.
Yes.
This 18-year-old who just went and shot.
In Oklahoma.
Yes, Oklahoma. And, it's connected now, the debates of is it gun control, or is it to do with mental health issues that we need to do with as a country. But when you check in the background, this boy actually doesn't have a father. It's the mother who came in the news and talking about the son, but she doesn't have that much attachment as a father would have had. But also women with absent fathers, or girls with absent fathers are more likely to have children with absent fathers. And the thing is, involving dads in their children's lives can actually improve their emotional and social well-being. So this is the question that I want to just pose to you. What's your take on the actions of an absent father? I know there could be someone there listening and this very moment their fathers are absent. And an absence could be either divorce or because of a divorce or even death or just neglect or abandonment. If you're even a Christian, should such a child or should such a boy or a man or a woman listening in, should they still be grateful to God for such a father? And why do you think that you think, and how can they do that?
Peter, that's a tough question.
Well,
because having tested a little bit of an absent father, I felt a little bit of bitterness in there. I must say the truth. But at the same time, I remained grateful. Why? Because my biological father remains my father. Everything about him is me. Now, like when you talked about my musical abilities, it's my father. I picked those music abilities from him. For me, looking at it by and large, they should be grateful. Because they have a part of them that is from this father. Whether they know him or not, they still have to recognize him. And the more they recognize the fact that he is their father, the better their future life will be. Because without that recognition, they will lose their identity. I have a friend who was born out of a mixed, an interracial marriage. His father was British and his mother Ugandan. The father disappeared. This boy, the Briton disappeared completely. He grew up to a man. He's about my age, actually. But just now, I used to see him sad, and he didn't seem to get anywhere. But after some time, his disposure changed. I saw him happier, and so when I talked to him, I discovered he had discovered his father. And to cut a long story short, it was through media and follow-up of which Britons visited Uganda at what time. So he discovered this retired man somewhere in England. And hooked up with him and called him and said, hey, you know what? When you came to Uganda, East Africa, do you remember having this relationship with a lady, Ugandan lady? And so the man actually recalled and said, yes, I have a son I've never seen. Since then, and I said, okay, I am that son. And their relationship hooked up, and
they are connected now.
They connected, and this changed his entire life. His work life, his family life, his church life, everything about him changed. All that was collapsing, I know if he's listening to this podcast, he knows himself. Everything about him changed and he became a better person. So one needs to be grateful, even when their fathers are absent. Although I don't condone absenteeism, because of course the presence is way better.
That's very important, and it just reminds me also of my own journey, really. Bitterness, growing up with bitterness, and my turning point was first getting saved, getting to know that I'm
you
loved.
Have a heavenly father.
I have a heavenly father, and he cares for me more than any other man, And I think we attended the fellowship with Barnabas, where I don't remember whether it was me who said it or we had it somewhere, but yes, I remember it was actually a boys to men's retreat we had at some point, and I shared from a video. There's a video we're watching, a documentary, and this gentleman was saying that a boy will cry from the wounds of the father, whereas a man cries for the wounds of the father. So a boy will cry from the wounds.
From the wounds, okay.
Yes, of the father. So in other words, you can cry because the father left me, or hate the father, or feel, my father is the worst man, or blame him for everything that is happening in his life. Maybe lack of opportunities, not going to school, or disconnection from networks or from relatives. A boy would keep crying, from those effects of fatherlessness. However, a man would cry for the wounds of the father, meaning that when someone else has played a role in his life to become a man, and that could be a teacher in school, that could be a big brother, that could be a pastor, that could be a mentor somewhere, who comes to be active in your life or present in your life, and to fill the gap that your father wasn't able to fill. Now, when God exposes you to such men, they're actually challenging you to go and cry for the wounds of your father. In other words, are you able to reconcile and restore, your relationship with your father? Just like a friend, are you able to pursue your father and look for him and let him know that you're alive?
Yes.
Let him know that, God has been faithful in your life. And you desire him as well, to know him, and that you don't condemn him. But then there's a father who really cares for all of you. And, and it's a blessing to actually have that relationship with, on earth with him, at this time. And really, if you imagine the issue of fatherlessness is not just a Banda problem or Changwa problem or Ugandan problem. It's a global problem. This friend he was separated from his father. Father goes to Britain and he's in Uganda. And these are issues everywhere, And it just leads me to just asking you this, to just hear your response, and maybe you just pick on your wisdom on this. If you can do anything to change the issue of fatherlessness in Uganda and the world. This may sound like another tough question, but
it is a tough question.
If you can do anything, in your capacity and really how God has blessed you as a man, and just with your experiences with your father as well, if you can do anything to change the issue of fatherlessness, what would you do?
It is a tough question. The first thing that comes to my mind is that as fathers, we need a connection to the Heavenly Father.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that's very fundamental.
Yes, that indeed is fundamental, like you put it, Barnabas. So I would pray that God gives me wisdom on how to connect fathers to the Heavenly Father and pick components of that Heavenly Father into their own life. And then if I had authority, like you have put it,
Minister
if a minister or something, I would come up with measures that would hold fathers back at certain points. Fathers go out. Fathers are the people you will find in the army. They're out there. They are the pastors who are sold out to churches. They all sorts of jobs. They are the people who are looking for the money out there. I would want to see fathers having time. This would sound so harsh, I would close the bars.
Wow. That's so harsh.
They were closed for 2 years or something.
They were closed
Yeah.
during
Fathers
COVID time.
Fathers were home. I remember someone saying that, fathers, this is the time to find out which class your children are in,
The age,
their age,
their color, what's their favorite color?
their favorite color.
Names of their friends.
It's so
Wow.
interesting.
I do believe children must have celebrated COVID.
Yeah.
In fact,
Yeah.
to us, what seemed bad, COVID brought it out well. So that fathers can come home,
Yeah.
get to know their children. Actually, when you discover that, when you discover your child,
Yeah.
there's something that clicks in your mind.
Yeah.
You really see your offspring. Barnabas is about to
Yeah.
have children.
Yeah.
Where there's a beauty of that connection between you and your offspring, and the role you have to play in making them be the good of you.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I don't know, for lack of a better word,
Better version.
a better version of you. Yes.
Yeah.
So I would come up with measures that would bring men home, have men home, let's say like on days like holidays, weekends. Let the fathers be home
Yeah.
so that they can listen to their children, impart something in their children, impact their children, guide, all this like we have shared before just a while ago. So with that, and also see that fathers are empowered to provide for their children.
Yeah.
I know we live in a harsh economy, if I were to put it also that way, where now, of course, the mothers also have to work now and support the families.
Yeah, because most parents will say, if we come home, be home, who will make the money?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what's coming to my mind. Maybe I don't know whether that suffices.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
it's
much.
a good one.
Very much. And I'm sure people have listening and appreciate those thoughts. Yeah.
The parents, fathers need to come home.
They need
That's
to
the
come
thing.
home.
That's bigger than
Yes.
because there are people who spend their whole time trying to provide, but yet they are breaking. Their children are broken.
Exactly.
Like you're providing everything, but then your children are broken.
Yeah.
You'd rather
Absolutely.
be with them, have the small, just have enough with them,
Absolutely.
but be present in their lives. That's more
Absolutely.
You're present physically, but absent socially,
Yeah.
absent emotionally. Yeah. And it's a very interesting thing because, again, it's hard to find a perfect father. It's actually,
yes.
hard.
there's no father who is perfect by himself.
And that's why he said we have to be connected to
Exactly.
the perfect father.
Yes.
We only
Perfect father
perfected,
in heaven.
Some things from
Yeah,
his-
because
Yes.
that perfection with the father comes, when the father actually has a deep relationship with Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
So-
that's how now we can pick it up and
Oh, yes. Yes.
So as we come towards the close, we know, of course, the issue of fatherlessness affects the family unit as well at large in our nation. And so we're wondering, what other challenges are you most worried about the unit of the family will be facing in the future? So may not be now, but like in the future, are there some things you're seeing now that are going to be big issues in the future, are going to affect the unit of the family? Yeah.
Yes, there's something I see that the remote trend that was sparked off by by the COVID era. That in itself, much as it brought the fathers home, again it created the remoteness in us. We cherish the remoteness. Now we can do things remotely wherever you are, and media.
Yeah.
I will give the picture in my home. I have a smartphone. My wife has one, and the girls have iPads.
Wow.
So we've gone through those times where everyone is on a gadget.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, and we have a Wi-Fi.
Wow. Yeah.
A route, and so in fact recently we've tried to put it off. We say no.
It's too
The
much.
router is, so that data is
Yeah.
just so that we can be sociable.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see many homes, many family units attending to that, just because it's the way to go. So even when fathers are at home, they have work on laptops, on phones.
So they're at home physically, but
they are not there.
they're not present.
They're not present
Emotionally,
emotionally and socially. So I keep getting worried about that, because even when you think you've gone over it, you find yourself diving into it.
Yeah.
Inevitably. And then also that in itself has now brought other things. The culture, the culture clashes. My first daughter has fallen in love with the Korean culture. I don't know where that came from.
It comes from the movies and then and music as well.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so there's this popular group called BTS. I actually came to find it.
Yes.
I came to find out.
You won't believe where we learned about BTS from. It was at camp we invited to facilitate a youth camp, and Ivy.
Yes.
Ivy introduced us to
BTS.
Why are you reporting?
No,
Yeah,
she
but
actually-
then we didn't know because our generation
Yes.
knows nothing.
Korean,
And
yes.
of course, also your
Definitely
generation,
mine. I am
definitely,
zero.
Yeah.
But guess what? I got to know about BTS somehow when I looked at her iPad, and it was all full of BTS.
do they speak English?
They are speaking Korean,
but they have subtitles. And
they are,
stuff,
yes, and they have taught them some Korean, so they speak Korean, and Ivy even writes those Korean
They
characters.
greet,
Wow.
they
They
what.
greet
In Korean.
in Korean.
Interesting.
But that's how media can have so much impact on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Technology.
So I was worried about culture clashes here and there, and how we are going to handle them. I don't know. One of these days, she might travel to Korea or
It must be her dream destination
her
now.
dream destination,
Yeah.
or even get married to a Korean. By the way, I have no reservations on that. I'm not the kind that would say no, I should stay here. But maybe my wife would. But so there are those kind of worries. But I've again put them before the Lord. I say, no, Lord, you know where the world will go, and definitely.
Those are big ones, really. Media and then culture. Those are really,
media
really
and
tough
culture.
ones. Yeah.
Yes.
And every family, I think, for us who are just having children now, we have to be prepared for that.
Oh yes.
How we're going to,
perhaps for us now,
manage this.
our children will be going to Brazil, speaking Portuguese.
It is strange. They're not
very
going
strange.
to English-speaking areas. I the other day I was also talking to someone who has fallen in love with Chinese. So everything they are oriented. They even speak Chinese. They are writing Chinese characters. So all this. So now one wonders, how have they moved from the English culture? Now it is Chinese. It is Korean. It is Japanese. Now I hear Brazil.
Brazil. Speak Portuguese.
Portuguese.
Yeah. So we've been talking about the future, and we want to close up now even further.
Yes.
When if in about 150 years,
Woo.
so that's a long time. All that is left about your life is a book. Your life is in a book. We were wondering what would be the title of that book, and what would this great book tell the world about you. So we want to know two things: the title, and then what would this book tell the world about you.
Now, that's another tough question. 150 years. I think I need to begin by developing the writing skill. But now, if I were to think of a book, one thing of recent I've been cherishing is the fact that all that I've gone through has left a mark in my life, and that mark has made me who I am and who I appreciate. So the title that comes to my mind is a fused by favor.
Wow.
Fused by favor.
Those
Wow.
are carefully
Yes.
chosen words.
You need to start writing your book now.
Yeah.
Fused by favor.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm thinking of this fuse, the the electric
Electric
gadget, that thing
Yeah.
that helps either stop danger or
Yeah.
carry on the
Yeah.
current or something like that. There are things that God has taken me through
Yeah.
that have helped me to be stopped from danger,
Yeah.
but at the same time, they have stopped certain opportunities.
Yeah.
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 Where I would have
Some
loved
closed
to go
doors.
this way.
Yeah.
They closed the doors, but then they stopped me from danger. Like I became a Christian at an early age,
Yeah.
and so I must say I missed things like discos. I missed going around with girls, sleeping with girls, and I keep wondering if I did, maybe I would be thinking better or thinking differently.
Yeah.
But again, I tell myself I was saved certain things. I actually have two titles. Another one that has just crossed my mind. Besides Fused by Favor, I'm thinking of another title, Blended for Blessings.
Blended for blessing. Is
Yes.
that like the blend from a blender?
A blender, yes.
Okay.
A blender that crashes there, and then what comes out? Recently we got a new blender at home, and my wife makes very good cocktail juice. And
we should visit soon.
yes, you should visit and have some of that nice. And I enjoy it a lot. So I'm saying now this has crashed all in there, and he has come out with a complex, nice thing. Tasty and yet nutritious. So that sort of thing is what I would. And then, of course, the content of that book, like you've asked, would be things like my life hurdles, the things that have seemed like hurdles, and yet they projected me to something else.
Yeah.
I remember at the age 9, I broke my arm.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that gave me a lesson on how I should control my anger. Actually, if I were to tell the story, it was all about anger. I was trying to fight Pastor Peter. Those sibling rivalries.
We shall ask him that question. Tell us about
We need his version.
boxing match.
How I broke my arm.
Yeah.
And then when I was working at the project at St. Kakumba, one of you recall, when I was riding that big bike, the 200cc bike, I was kind of a bad rider, I would say, reckless. And I ran into a lorry and then broke my leg. So it's my left arm and my left leg are all affected. In fact, the leg was badly shattered, and so they had to put a metal in the leg. So those kind of things were like pointers were saying, no, you're going overboard. You need to tone down. And so there will be those my hurdles. Then I would talk of the divine acquaintances that I like. Coming across your dad, whether your dad influenced us a lot through his many good, rich sermons.
Barnabas' dad. People are listening in. It's Barnabas' dad.
Barnabas' dad. Yes. Yes. He preached and spoke into our lives, and then he did not stop at that. He practically got into our lives. He would get to know us and then see how he would impact us. By the time he left, our lives were not the same. And then the ones that followed him, and of course the earlier one, the late Reverend Musime, Ephraim. So all this impacted us. And then earlier on, I had a Sunday school teacher. Actually, Ivy is my Sunday school teacher now, who actually taught me piano, who impacted my music.
That was
a lot.
Chambogo.
No, this one now was in the Baptist church.
Oh, okay.
So did the name just come
Yes.
up?
This lady, I went from Kakumba Chapel, I went into Baptist Church. Probably that part of my life you didn't know. And I met this lovely lady. She loved children. And she loved me so much. And the rest is history. So that alone was a divine acquaintance that projected me to some other life. And there are many others that I met. And then the opportunities that I could have missed, I would talk about. I married late. There were some ladies I loved in the church then. Somehow I missed them. But I know, of course,
but
God
was
had
for your good.
It was for my good.
Yeah, Romans 8:28.
Yes. So, and then, of course, the opportunities that came my way.
Yeah.
And of course, marrying my wife, and then having a family, my job, and wherever I've been to, whether I've used or squandered them. Of course, I can give my opinion to that, and so probably now that you talk about a book, I think
those are many ideas. So this second book is blended
book.
by blended. I think I didn't get the last word on blended.
Blended for blessing.
Blended for
blessings.
For blessings. Yeah. So we're going to keep you accountable and encourage you to actually bring them closer. We can't wait for 150 years, friends. We need that book even within this decade.
Yes.
So we're praying that we get more depth of your experiences and these wonderful testimonies, and of course the blessings fused by favor. I love the F and F, fused by favor.
Yes.
Wow. Like an album title.
Yes. It's that seeing it on a cover page. It's one book that you can't wait to dive into and say what happened, Yeah. So
what were those fuses?
Exactly. So we are already expectant, and I think Barnabas would agree. 150 years is not what we're going to wait for.
It's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. But again, it's really what the legacy and just the impact that you want to leave behind. And even at that time, if someone ever comes across these books, they would relate and give thanks and glory to God. Amen. Knowing that yes, there was once a man, Mr. Paul Lwere, who went through these experiences, and we can tell that if it wasn't for God, his story would be different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's really something that it's always worth of cherishing every day of our lives.
Oh yes.
Yeah, because again, these testimonies are everyday experiences, everyday occurrences where God reveals himself to us.
Oh yes.
And then we just have to, someone said, count our blessings,
yes,
one by one, and record them, and think about them, think about the goodness of God, that even when another challenge comes in, you remember who is ever faithful in your life.
Oh yes.
Yeah. But friends, we are very, very privileged that we've gotten to listen and share this moment with Mr. Paul Lwere and Uncle Paul. It's really, we don't feel like stopping. We want to keep going and going. However, our time is going to cut us short. We want to really have another opportunity again, maybe to listen to some people in his life that he has mentioned, especially Pastor Peter, who used to have gloves. Pastor Peter. Yes, we need to get your version of some stories that we've really been inspired about. And we want to thank you so much, Uncle Paul, for sparing your time. And probably, if you could share with us, I know that some men out there, maybe your friends, long lost friends, some who could be in the US or where, and they want to get in touch with you right now, just listening to you. Or maybe some who even want to add on to, the stories.
Oh, yes.
And there might be men out there who are raising daughters.
Yeah, there might be some.
How has Uncle Paul done?
Exactly. And
like to connect.
Yeah, and they want to maybe work with you and maybe listen to your experience as well. Even those who need to encourage you as well.
Yes.
You never know, there could be some in Korea as well.
Yes.
who want to share opportunities in Korea. Korea, South Korea at least I know.
Yes,
is
South
a
Korea
very nice country. Yeah. How can the men out there who wish to connect with you actually contact you? you have an email address or
Oh, yes,
social
thank you.
platforms? Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is very important. I'm glad you've mentioned that. Yes, I do have an email, which is quite easy to remember. It is my two names in lower scale, paul.lwere, Lwere, at gmail.com. And if it's a phone line, for those who are within the country or even without, I have a line that goes with the numbers 0772 429 737. I kind of joke around with them. I say, for 2 nights, 7 throws 7.
Oh, I like
Those are my numbers on 0772. For 2 nights, 7 will throw 7.
Wow. For 2 nights.
nice way to cram.
For 2 nights.
429-737.
Yeah. So for friends who are out of Uganda, I think you have to add the +256.
Yeah, +256
And then,
772 for 2 nights, 7 throws 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Do you have any social media platforms or anything?
I'm
like
not
that?
a media person, incidentally. I struggle with Facebook. Now my Facebook address, I always forget my Facebook address. I'm not good. I'm not a good media person. I think I need to learn one or two things.
Paul Lwere,
Yes.
they can see the
They
results.
can get you.
They can find me. Right now, I'm a retired teacher. Those who have known me as a teacher probably would want to know where I am.
Yes.
I now have an organization with my brother, Pastor Peter. It's a
You
leadership.
guys are still close.
We are
after that.
really tight close. It's called Kephas Leadership Foundation. Kephas for Peter,
Yes, Peter.
Rock. You can either call it Cephas or Kephas, but we pronounce it as Kephas.
All right.
Kephas Leadership Foundation. And we have set up to reach out to churches and schools to see how we can raise standards and connections.
Yeah.
We are targeting to raise standards and connections in whichever direction by the giftings we've been given. My brother has been in church governance for a long time, so he does share those giftings in the music. So I share the giftings of music. And then we both have education on us, so we share those giftings. And at the moment, we've been dealing with the psychosocial skills, because they are a big need now after the post-COVID. So we are providing those kind of skills. We go out to see either the teachers or the students. And for the churches, we have engaged the pastors. We have a pastor's breakfast that we host every first Tuesday of a month. And in a way, we've seen it work out with the pastors. We have done it for, it's coming to 2 years, 1.5 years. So that's where I am.
That's amazing. I'm particularly inspired by how you continuously together over the years with your brother. And I mean, it's biblical.
Yes.
Barnabas has the Bible open. Psalm 133 talks of how good and pleasant it is
for brothers to dwell together in unity.
And it doesn't have
Must
to be
one of your favorites.
Yes, it is my favorite.
And it doesn't have to be really your biological brother. For friends listening in, we really encourage at the Dad Base and Bethel Youth Ministries, where Barnabas serves as a team leader. We encourage boys to live in community, to enjoy, to find purpose and life within a brotherhood and grow with each other. And that's something that is so important. And it's great and inspiring to know that you and Pastor Peter are still moving on and doing amazing work with Kephas. We pray that God continues to bless you.
Amen.
And to lead you, and also to expand your territory.
Amen.
And that the vision of Kephas will also continue to impact more and more people out there.
Amen.
Yes. But friends, we've come to the beginning of the end. We'd love to really thank you so much. What a great start to season 2 of the podcast. This is a very first episode, and be on the lookout for more and more episodes. We're going to have so many other great men coming in to just share with us life experiences on fatherhood, sonship, family, leadership, and several other topics, masculinity, that we as well need to listen to. But to remind you, today's the time to build a generation of men who are proud of who they are, proud of what they're capable of, and those that desire to lead their families to prosperity in the kingdom of God.
Yes, and we are calling on you to be, we're calling on all the men out there to be part of the regenerated men of this season, who, one, love God and to their families, and are available to share the liberating gospel of the love of God.
Yeah, so you are deeply loved by the Father, fully accepted in his family, and enough in Jesus Christ. Uncle Paul, this is a mantra. We say, I am loved, I am accepted, and I'm enough. We declare that as an affirmation of who we are, that we're deeply loved by the Father, fully accepted into his family, and enough in Jesus Christ. So, yes.
I love that mantra.
I
love it.
So friends, have a breath of fresh air as you recommend the Fresh Fathers and Sons Air podcast to every boy and man near you. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless you.
God bless you.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.